All right, so here is, I'm going to show you how to do your pencil drawings for your quad design. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is you need to mark off your paper. So here are some supplies that you're going to need. You're going to need a ruler and your sketchbook. You can use a piece of printer paper if you don't have the sketchbook that I handed out, but these are awesome sketchbooks. So you're going to do, we're going to mark it off. The sketchbooks are 9 by 12, and that is from this perforation. You can see there's a perforation along here where it tears out. We're not going to tear it out, but we're going to use that edge to mark. Okay, so I want you to make an 8 by 10, and since this is 9 by 12, what I can do is I can make a little mark by lining my ruler up, and I can go in an inch and go in an inch, and then I'm going to do it down here, going in an inch and going in an inch, and then I go ahead and I line my ruler up with those two marks I made. And I'm going to do my lines dark actually so you can see them, but when you're drawing, I want you to actually draw a little lighter than this, because for your marks I want you to be able to erase your pencil after you're completely done. Okay, so you're going to mark off that. So this is the 10 inches, right? Because I took an inch off of each end, so 2 inches off of 12 is 10, and then it's 9 inches this way, so I want it to be 8 inches, so I only need to take off an inch. So I'm going to make a mark at the 1/2 inch and at 8.5 here. Okay, so this is going to be 8 inches. So if I go in and I make a mark at 1/2 and 8.5, then I have something that I can draw my lines. Right, that's what those marks are for. So I go in and I draw. Make sure your fingers aren't on over your ruler like this, or you're going to get a little bump, right? Down here I'm going to hold it on this side, because make sure you hold it down really good. And there I have my paper is marked off for 8.5 or 8 by 10. Okay, so now I'm ready to start doing my quad design. Okay, so quadrilateral symmetry, we're drawing 1/4 of the design, which means we have to create something interesting in the corner, because the corner is going to become the center when we flip it and make it 4 repetitions. Now you can do something like an angled line. So if I do something like an angled line, that's going to be 1/4. So it's going to end up being like a diamond. See, like that when I flip it? Okay. Or I can do something like a circle. Now, if you want to do any kinds of circles, you can find some objects around your house. This is a jar lid. And then I have just this little cuticle cream container, right? It's smaller. So if you want different size circles, you can use those. If I want this to be a perfect circle, then I have to be sure that I line it up at the highest point and the highest point. And I still might not get it perfect, but I'm going to put this on here about like that. I'm going to trace that. So now I've made something that hopefully when it flips, it's going to have a circle in the middle. Okay, and I can create my designs off of that, right? So what you're going to do is you're starting in a corner, and then you just work your way out with your designs. And you can do anything. You do not have to be abstract. You can draw an elephant. You could draw like some elephants walking along, and then they might form a circle. Or you can do underwater themes with sea creatures. You can do flowers. You can do vines. You can do a mix of geometric and organic shapes. But the clear thing to remember is that everything needs to be a shape. So everything needs to be closed, right? So all of this needs to be closed. And then I can just go on from there. So you don't have to be super perfect. You don't always have to hold some like a template or a ruler. I mean, if you want some straight lines to go out from there, you can do that, right? But I'm going to just draw some scallops. So I'm going to do like a half scallop here and a half scallop here, right? Well, and then I'm going to do one here, kind of centering it along there, and I'm going to do one here and here. It's not perfect, they're not perfect, but it looks beautiful when you're done. Really, you have to not be so worried about it, right? I made this line here, so I'm going to make some more because it looks kind of weird with just one. I'm going to do like a skinny line and a wide line. And these lines give me some really nice things where I can do some interesting designs inside of them, okay? So remember that we're doing large to small. So I made this large and then I made these smaller things inside, and I can make even smaller and even smaller. So I'm gonna do a few lines just kind of going out from my piece. And I'm not even gonna try to get them perfect, but it kind of gives me sort of a sunburst feel. Right? But I'm going to take it and do something a little different here. Oops, I slipped. Be careful when you draw with a ruler, you got to hold it still. So I'm going to do this. And this. And maybe something like this. So see how I've created some large sections here? So they don't really look like much. I'm gonna just keep on going. I'm gonna make this a little wider. Whoops, bump on the finger. Remember, don't draw as dark as I'm drawing. Now, I got some things happening here. So what else can I do to it, right? So maybe I want to repeat that. So now I have the big shapes, right? So I've made some large shapes. Maybe I want to do something like add some circles in it or something. I'm going to do this. Right, maybe I'll make another one over here. Repetition is always a really nice principle to use. I think I'm going to just make a half a one, kind of hiding. So when you put things, look at what I did here. When I draw something and I don't draw it there, now it looks like it's behind this. And that adds some interest, right? So maybe I'll even do one like this. What are these? What are they? Okay. But these are all the same size. And it starts to get a little boring after a while, right? Right, so I might find something smaller. Let's see, do I have anything laying around here? I wasn't prepared for this. I didn't plan on this. I don't actually have anything laying around. So I'm just going to draw them by hand. So these are all really big, right? So maybe I want to repeat that idea and draw some circles that are smaller, right? They don't have to be perfect. I'm doing these by hand. But what I'm doing here is I'm adding a little bit of interest, right? And now I've got these scallops down here, so maybe I want to repeat that somewhere. I don't know, maybe I'll do it on one of these circles. Kind of looks like a flower. Maybe I'm only going to do it to some of them. So one of the things that you can do is when you do these designs, you can do things that are smaller, right? So what if I do something like this inside? And I'm repeating, but I moved it over a little, so it kind of has a weird, interesting kind of depth to it, right? I'm going smaller and smaller. Now this is maybe a little bit boring. So maybe I want to go in and I want to add some lines inside of some of my shapes. You can use a ruler or not. Right, so see how this adds like a little bit of difference to it? And if I want to, I can change some lines. Whoops. Okay. So again, one thing that you need to be aware of is you're going to trace these with Sharpie after you're done. So one of the things that you got to do is make sure that you don't make anything too small. So don't make anything really any smaller than this, okay? So see how big that is compared to my finger, right? It's tiny, but it's not too tiny. When you go to trace it with a Sharpie, if it's too small, it's going to make a blob instead of something that you can fill in with color, okay? So maybe I'm using the circles as repetition, but I can do other things. So this, I have some lines going this way. Maybe I'm going to take this one and I'm going to do some different widths of lines. Well, I did that on here, so yeah, I'll leave it. Maybe another one. You can draw things inside of these, right? So maybe I'll go in and I'll do something like this. Right, so I'm adding some interest. So there's some small spaces and some large spaces to color in, right? This can be really meditational, right? Once you get started, it can be really fun to kind of go in and pick some, just keep on making these shapes. Now, if you are stuck with what to do, I gave you a Zentangle link in the assignment, and you can go in and you can look at the Zentangles, and they have a lot of really cool things that you can do. But I want you to remember when you do that, that you need to not fill anything in. So some of them are filled in with black. So if I go in and do this, right, I'm making kind of a weaving look. This is one of the things I got from the Zentangles, right? You can do different things like this, right? So it kind of looks like it's woven through. It gives some variety and interest. I can also, you know, there's things like little scallops and fish scales and you know, all kinds of interesting designs that you can do. So you can do things along the edges, right? So I could maybe, you know, do something like this. Now I'm getting a little wacky here, right? So you want to, this is getting a little bit, it doesn't all really look like it belongs together anymore. It's starting to get kind of crazy, but I'm just kind of trying to show you some different things that you can do in your pieces. Now remember, you can do a shape of something. If you wanted to do something like a vine, like maybe I would have a vine coming out and it's going to go behind this, and then it's going to kind of, I'm going to lightly take my pencil and pretend I'm going across, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to go here. So maybe my vine is going to go behind, and then it goes around and comes out here. And I can add leaves to it. So that gives you the sense that it's a vine, right? And I can make details in the leaves, right? So then I would have some interesting things to color in. I could make those every other color, like a light green and a dark green, so I can add those kinds of details. And if I want this to kind of have look like it's going through things, if I make it go across my page. This is how you make it look like it's going on top or underneath something. So if I take it, right, so now it looks like it's weaving around. If I want this to look like it's on top of all of this, I just erase these things. Okay, and your lines are going to be lighter than mine, so you can probably see that they don't erase very well when they're really dark. So I'm only making them dark so that you can see my pencil in the video. But I want you to do them somewhat light. So see how now it looks like it's going behind and then in front of. So that might be something that you can, this kind of looks like a vine out in space. Okay, so the idea is to just start large and then start filling in smaller and smaller. So like here I had started large. I can go in and do some repetition with this. So if I go in and I just keep, like if I follow my lines, right? Now it gives me something more interesting to look at, and I can fill it in with a lot of really cool colors, right? So now I've gotten some more detail. So notice that everything is a closed shape. I'm just going to keep on drawing, right? So you're going to do 2 of these, right? So I want you to take your time and really just enjoy the process of it. Like, oh, it's really meditational, just to kind of, what can I draw on here? What can I add? And this is getting a little thick. So see right there, see how that spot is really closed in? My pencil's getting a little bit dull. It's getting thicker because it needs to be sharpened. So draw lightly with a sort of sharper pencil so you don't get a blob like this, because when I go to trace it with Sharpie, it's going to be, it's going to fill in like a blob. So be careful that you have open spaces like this. All right. That's pretty much how you get started. You can come up with whatever design that you want to. It's your choice. You can do abstract or realistic. You can do items that you like animals or plants or whatever. Okay, so that's basically it. You're going to just do 2 pencil designs like this in your sketchbook in this 8x10 shape, and that's what you're going to be turning in for this first part. So I'm not done with this. I think it has a lot more to go. I feel like this is really empty space, and I could fill it up with, you know, some more things. I could add a lot of other details. You know, it looks really blank to me, so maybe I might do some more of these vines kind of weaving around the whole thing. I could plan it out a little better, right? So I could think of some more things that just, you know, like you can think of ideas beforehand. Like I'm just kind of winging it here, right? You don't have to wing it. You can come up with an idea and work on that. So, but this is basically the idea of how you get started. You start in the corner, try to make an interesting thing, because that's going to be the focal point, and then all of this is going to radiate out. Okay, it's not quite a radial design, but it does have quite a lot of characteristics of a radial design because they're going to come out from here, right? So that is how you get started.